some quick introductions as to who we are, so who the Talking Taking Action team is, so the main organisations and facilitators behind it. So we've got Alison here and Lucy, waving nicely, from Oak Tree Sustainable Living Centre. And that's a community space helping people to live more sustainably, become more self-sufficient and get involved in the green movement in Yorkshire, not York, I'm based in Leeds, I think. We've got Pete here from Speak Carbon, and Pete delivers carbon literacy training to individuals, organisations and communities across Yorkshire to facilitate meaningful conversations and drive positive changes in carbon reduction. So if it's climate knowledge you're after, Pete, your man. And I'm from St. Nick's, and we are York Centre for Nature and Green Living. We have transformed a former rubbish tip into a 24-acre nature reserve just 1 mile from the city centre. And our charity runs projects that reconnect people to nature and help them adopt a more sustainable lifestyle, such as ecotherapy, low carbon curbside recycling collection, or yoga open eco homes, and lots more. So now I think we'll have a quick look before we hand over to speakers. We'll have a quick look at our last session's pledges when we were talking about transport and travel. So I don't know if we have anyone here who came along, whether you'd like to share your progress. You can see hopefully some of the things that people have pledged. Do we have any brave soul here willing to update us?
I think Tom's waving his hand to speak.
Lovely. Yeah, Tom.
So yeah, I'm on there saying that I pledge to take as close to 0 flights as I can practically manage, and I'm happy to say that I'm still on 0. But I am going to seriously try very hard though. So yeah, I think we've got plans to get a sleeper train to Europe at some point, so we're looking forward to that. But,
yeah, have you done the flight free pledge? Maybe that might spur you on. So there's a website, flightfree.com, I think, where you can pledge to not fly for a year or even a whole life, which is what I've done. That was my action.
okay,
It sort of focuses the mind.
Yes,
I
might
can
have a look at that.
share the link later. Lucy, I think, had a hand up. Was it? Or Alison?
Yes, it was. I pledged to use my car less, and I would say I've reduced it by over 50% since the last Talking Taking Action, just by being much more conscious of it. And I was conscious before. I wouldn't just get in the car for any reason, but I've been making a real effort. Got 2 children who are 8 and just turned 5 and are able to walk a bit further now than they have been previously. And so we've been making a real effort to. We went to a friend's in the garden, for example, and it's probably just about a mile each way. And before, I probably wouldn't have walked because of the kids and all the stuff we were taking, but I just made a real effort to carry loads of bags and carry one of the children for part of the way. My partner did anyway. Yeah, I just made a real effort to be constantly thinking of the car as the last resort, really. And I'm just going to keep doing that, shop differently, smaller shops that are less heavy so we can walk home with those, and just making a real effort to reduce it less. And I'm going to continue to do that because I've done quite a few other. We talked in the last one about how some of the ways you can reduce your carbon footprint initially are quite big things you can do, big changes that have a big impact. And then after that, it's quite smaller changes that need to come in. So yeah, I'm working on those smaller changes and we'll continue to do so.
Fantastic. Brilliant. And I'm sure the kids will be healthier for that as well. Yeah.
I've got a similar one. I actually didn't officially pledge last time, but the session itself really got me thinking. I think similar to Lucy, that there's areas of my life that I feel quite happy about and quite kind of proud of, if you want to put it like that, and as far as low carbon goes. But there's other areas that I've always struggled with, and car use is one of them. And since since the Talking Taking Action session, it's just really got me thinking. And I think since the 6th of April, I've started using it, writing down when we use the car, and we've only used it 3 times since then, because I've been doing lots of little shops on my bike and sussing out little routes to sort of off-road routes to the supermarket and stuff, and getting my pannier and getting my little bag on the front, and yeah, getting set up with cycling, which has been lovely because I absolutely love cycling. But yeah, it really got me thinking, actually, that session, more than I thought it would. And yes, I'm similar to Luce, just really trying to think about when we actually need the car and when we can manage without.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Unless there are any others, I think I've got a message from Audrey, which actually links back to the food session. And I just wanted to say that it was very helpful, and now they have hundreds of seedlings germinating for edible York. So there's going to be a stall and or some sort of share system coming up in mid-May. So if you're in York, look out for that. And I think that was one of her pledges, to grow more stuff to share with people. So
yeah,
yes.
I think she connected with a couple of people on the food session, didn't she? And that sort of blossomed out of that, pardon the pun. So that's really exciting to know that there's real action happening based on these sessions. That's fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's our updates. Obviously, do feel free to share more ideas in the chat as well. And what I forgot to say is, as I sort of will shortly hand over to speakers, if you've got a question that pops into your mind, then please put it in the chat, but just put Q at the start so that it's easier for I think Alison and Lucy are keeping an eye, so that it's easier for them to pick them out from the chatter. So let's talk stuff, because that's what today's session is. And I think I was somewhat intrigued to find that actually, if you look at UK's carbon emissions, if you include emissions generated by the stuff we buy from overseas, so without kind of taking off the ones from here, it's almost half of the UK's carbon footprint. And that's an amazing amount. And that's often not actually included in official statistics, because they are sort of based on territorial emissions rather than sort of the full picture. So actually what we buy and what we do with it and where we buy it from really has a massive impact on our carbon footprints. So this is why we wanted to talk about stuff and consumption. And now we will hear a bit from each of our sort of specialists or our speakers about what they do and the roles stuff or consumption has in reducing our emissions. So so please jot down any questions you might have in the chat, and I'll now hand you over to my lovely colleagues Sam Taylor and Esther Smith from Sendik's Precious Plastic York project.
Okay, so just to introduce ourselves, so as it says here, we've both been involved in the recycling collection, but we hate recycling. Well, is that completely true? Not entirely. There's actually nothing more satisfying than chucking a big load of glass over into the recycling tip. But there's a reason why we're saying that, and I'll hand over to Sam to explain why we say we hate recycling.
It's a bit of a bold statement. But for us, a lot of people seem to think recycling is the be-all and end-all when it comes to waste management. It's good. Obviously, we want to keep resources in use, but it's the best of the worst options. It's not a solution to waste problems, and people do literally become obsessed. I get so many emails every day asking how they can recycle this one very, very specific item, and people almost get offended when I suggest, well, maybe there's a better option. Maybe you don't need to bring that into your house in the first place. So our Precious Plastic York project is aiming to highlight some of the complexities around recycling and why it isn't the solution everyone seems to think it is. But for today, obviously, we're talking about stuff. So what we want you to think about is how you keep the waste hierarchy in mind and move up. So the waste hierarchy is a nice little triangle. You move the higher up the triangle, the better you're doing. So if I can have the next slide, please. Our top tips. make smart swaps. So if you and your family can't possibly go without crisps, could you possibly buy one big bag instead of the big bag full of little bags, and then decant them into little tubs or whatever to go in lunch boxes? Same for biscuits. You don't need to buy individually wrapped portions. You could buy the big pack, and you'll save yourself money as well as lots of unnecessary plastic. If you need to use items like straws, look at options: silicone, metal, glass, even the thicker plastics. So you're thinking about getting rid of, eliminating the single-use disposable options. There's an old saying, if you buy cheap, you'll buy twice. So save up and buy fewer higher quality items. It's really obvious with things like appliances, clothing, shoes. You can make more ethical as well as more environmentally friendly choices if you've got the budget. So that means not buying from Boohoo, ASOS a couple of times a month. Save up and buy the really quality items. There's also lots of libraries, so not just for books, but you can hire cloth nappies. So if you've got little ones, you don't want to spend a fortune trying out every option available, but you can go to a cloth nappy library and they'll help you find the right option for you and your family. Same for tools. You can borrow tools, or you could even team up with your friends and family. So hopefully you're not all mowing your lawns on a daily or weekly basis. So why does every household need its own lawnmower? Share it between your friends and family. Audit your house. That's a big one. And if you like me and like organising, it's quite a fun one. So you go through your cupboards, make sure you know what you've got in, so you don't end up buying multiples of the same items and you're not hoarding stuff. It's really common for plastic, for cleaning products. Food, obviously it's perishable, so you're wasting money and resources if you're storing and buying multiples. The key one though is refuse. That's the main one we'd like you to, the Precious Plastic York would like you to take away. You don't go into a supermarket to buy packaging, so look for the options with the least packaging. Look for the most easily recyclable option. I know we said no, but you do need to still keep that in mind. Refuse the freebies, refuse the extra packaging, and hopefully you'll start noticing. It's one of those things, as soon as you start looking, you're going to see stuff everywhere. Esther's going to explain now about precious plastic in the community.
So next slide, please. This is my favourite slide ever. Somebody's asked in the chat about how do we sign up. I put in a link to our Facebook page, but you are precious plastic in the community. We've just been talking about individual actions and they are important, but the vision of precious plastic is that we can all look and see what part we can play in together as a community, making systems to make the best use of the plastic we've already got around us. So we're in next, we're going to be setting up, we already collect plastic, we're going to be setting up what's called a mix workshop, which is going to have a shredder, an extruder and a compressor in it. But this picture just really sums up how we want to work with the community, with different organisations, with shops, so that we can, and also with designers, so that we can use the plastic that we have near to us, locally shred it and upcycle it using different machines to make all kinds of different things. So one of your pledges tonight might be to find out a little bit more about the precious plastic model, and I'll put the link in the chat, and think about where you might fit in. When me and Sam were chatting before this, it's like we want to get across that it's not that we want to do more recycling as part of this project. We don't want you just bringing us loads and loads of plastic so we can make plant pots or something. We want to become a community where we're finding solutions to issues. We're using the plastics to make our materials, to they can be extruded into building materials, to work together to make a system that's truly sustainable.
Great, thank you. I think it sort of could be summed up with less is more. Let's look at that first, and also about actually making stuff precious again, because so much of it is throwaway and we just take it for granted. So yeah, let's make it precious, especially when it's spent millions of years evolving underground. So now we had a slight technical glitch with one of our presentations, so I'll hand I'll allow Sue to share her screen because we just could not make them work on mine. So Sue, 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
Someone
hi
is still
everyone.
more or less stuck to it.
I've got my timer to start me, so I'm away. Hi everybody. I'm part of the Circular Moulton and Norton CIC just outside York, and I want to share with you a story about using a flexible but very powerful concept, the circular economy, to engage the masses and drive a change in behaviour. I think now I hear everybody knows and wants to see it tackle climate change and gets it rationally, but there's still a lot of barriers to change, and they're emotional ones. So I think understanding those is the key. First of all, the reward is always difficult to grasp and some way away, versus the comfort and effort of now. There's risk seen to attach it. I hear people say, yeah, but my one action won't make a difference, and we all know it will. And it doesn't matter if it's a household or a business. So we've applied a change management technique. ADCAR is my favourite of all the change management approaches. And why I like it is because it tells you to do all the usual things, but desire to change is, I don't see it in any other models. And this is about saying to people, what's in it for me? And saving the planet is not what's in it for me. If I'm a business and I'm trying to survive, what's in it for me? And that's why we explain to people that reducing carbon can be a way to save money or make money. That's what's in it for them. And that's really what's different here. And so the approach we've taken is actually be really bold. Sorry, it's my dog's going off now. But being really bold about our intentions and ambition, because that's what is engaging people into the conversation. So we actually have put up a banner on the A64 from York to Scarborough saying we're creating Yorkshire's first circular economy market town. And of course, it's we're not there yet, and it will take some time, but that's prompted people to inquire, you know, what is this all about? What does that mean? And that's what we wanted to do. And we've also been bold in terms of what are the initiatives we are taking on. It's with households and residents, it's with schools to use the younger generation to influence families at home, and to engage businesses to drive that change. And where we want to be is a resource efficient market town where nothing of value is lost, be it energy, materials, and waste. Three-pronged approach and engaging a lot of stakeholders is key. And it's not about doing all our own initiatives, it's about being the umbrella and directing, signposting people to others. So to give you an idea of the initiatives that we're looking at, one is to say, could we take all the food waste in our town and put it into an anaerobic digester to power the town? And this picture on the left shows a sausage roll. To understand and help people understand AD, say, if there's the natural waste, bio waste from making one sausage roll would heat a house for 2 minutes or power a laptop for over half an hour, and suddenly people get why an AD could be a really good idea. We've also run a business webinar to say, you know, yes, you can have a thriving, healthy, competitive advantage business and achieve carbon net zero. And we've got case studies of local businesses of every type that's doing just that, and then we can direct them to really excellent support through the LEP or other bodies, and we are seeing some businesses thriving with this and are really capturing imagination. And our new initiative is to look at a social enterprise business startup that will look at upcycling. So taking up Sam and Esther talked about the refurbishing or remanufacturing things in a different way. How will we know whether it's working or not? Well, the the thing I love about circular economy is it's not just about the environment. This is about new jobs, added value skills, well-being, which for market towns is so important, and it really benefits everybody. And this year we'll start measuring the impact that we want to have. But in the first 6 months, we did a survey, and we've gone from 0 to over half of the residents we talked to aware that we're considering becoming a circular town, and almost 9 out of 10 people supporting it, which has given us the encouragement and the green light to keep going. And I'm not sure if you can see that at the end, but 78% of people in favour of our community anaerobic digester, which in the world of AD is unheard of in terms of the support that we've got. So it was a sort of whistle-stop tour, but just to say this is something that can be done at any village, any town, and you only need a few people to get started. But it's a great way to drive change and create that environment where it becomes the way of doing things around here. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Sue. There's definitely lots of food for thought there, I think. So yeah, if you have any questions on that, please pop them in the chat. And now I'll invite Alistair, I believe, from Lee's Repair Cafe.
Hiya.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, yeah, my name's Al from Leeds Repair Cafe. I don't know how much any of you know about repair cafes in general, but they started in about 10 years ago in 2009 in Amsterdam, and there's now over 2,000 in the world. And they're basically very casual events where people come and repair their stuff, generally in sort of church halls, community centres, things like that. And there's a kind of core group of people there who know how to fix things to some degree. So in our Leeds Repair Cafe, we've been going for I think about 5 or 6 years, and there's about kind of 10 to 12 of us who organise the events and regularly are fixers at the events. And some of us are good at fixing clothes, some of us are good at fixing jewellery. I generally do computers, and then some of us are kind of jack of all trades types who are kind of can do several things. I guess the main point I want to make about repair cafes is you're very welcome to come to ours in Leeds. That'd be great. There is a bit of a problem with that at the moment because we have actually lost our venue during COVID. It's gone to the developers, which is what happened to our last one as well, which I guess is, you know, just one of the consequences of holding an event in central Leeds. But I think the main thing I want to say is if you don't have a repair cafe local to you already, it's a great thing to have, and you should probably try and start one yourself. It's really easy. You just need some people who can fix and some tools and a venue, basically. So also, I just want to talk about the slide a little bit. As you can see, there's our contact details, and there's also a guide to setting up your own repair cafe from repaircafe.org. So that's the first place to look if you're thinking about it yourself. And below that, there's a link to Restarters, which is kind of a social network, but I hesitate a bit to use that term because I know people often don't like the idea of social networks, but that's a place where you can look at different events that are happening near you and kind of connect with people who are doing repair. It's run by an organisation called the Restart Project, who are like a British organisation who, again, just connect people doing these kind of events kind of across Europe and the world. They're based in London, and they're just generally a really great organisation. And they kind of connect a lot of the stuff that happens they're not technically anything to do with repaircafe.org, but there's a lot of interlinked stuff. The events they run are called restart parties and are more focused on electronics. So yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say. I think if anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask. And I'm sure, like, I know there's a Repair Cafe in York, so I'm sure there's some in other places that you live. So that's great. And I'm sure they're looking for more fixers and like people who can organize events and stuff. So get involved wherever you can. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you all. Yes, brilliant. Thank you for sharing. And I hope you find somewhere new in Leeds then, so you can run the sessions again. Now that hopefully things will become a little bit easier. So we've got one more speaker. We've kind of gone from how to sort of try and reduce the stuff we've got to how we can kind of make our economy a bit more circular, so that it kind of so that we can make sure things are kind of going back in the loop to repairs, and now over how maybe we can promote all these ideas to people. So over to Stella from Festival of Thrift.
Hello everybody, fantastic to be here and inspiring to hear what's going on in Yorkshire. We're honorary Yorkshire folk in Redcar, just over the border. Actually, Saltburn was recently on a programme about Yorkshire, so perhaps we're slipping in. I'm not a specialist, I'm a generalist. The intro said we were specialists. I know a little about a lot, but always happy to listen to specialists and join forces. So I hope to make new links and connections here. And in previous years, of course, I'd be saying, and I hope to welcome you all and everybody you know to the festival in September. Who knows whether we'll have one this year. We were online last year, digital festival. We went very local. But we are announcing the 25th and 26th of September for an event that normally attracts about 35,000 people over a weekend to a free event that celebrates and encourages sustainability with arts and creativity at its core, but involving every kind of amateur and professional enthusiast. It can involve up to 130 ethical traders, 200 or so professional artists and makers. That's theatre, dance, visual arts, music, design, fashion and food, alongside everybody who wants to get on board, local churches, colleges, community groups. We put creativity at the heart of a sustainable future, and building a creative community for each of us who has something to offer, something to share, is about sharing knowledge and skills as well as stuff. So the kinds of things we do, yes, before I've even asked, you've sensed it's time for slide 2. We try and lead by example, and it's probably nudge behaviour rather than setting out our stall too clearly. We have a role to play in behaviour change. We try and model behaviours that normalise new sustainable behaviours. But we must all recognise that change is incremental, and by us aligning ourselves with a very broad coalition and a very broad range of other partners means that the message will get through in different ways to different people. Some respond to the visuals, some respond to facts and figures, some respond to the kinesthetic. So by providing all of those, we hope to be able to convince and change some behaviours. Though, of course, during lockdown, we've noticed some of those things that had become normal, carrying your own reusable coffee cup, carrying your own water bottle, that kind of thing, has changed, and people have gone back to poor behaviours and started littering all over again. So we've got another journey to go on. Just building on some of the things, I mean, Al mentioned is of course from a repair cafe. We have our own group. We have the Fix It Cafe, and they've been with us for the last 8 years. We started with a small festival in 2013 and carried on. The Fix It Cafe is with us every year, working in fixing, making, darning. It could be electronics, it could be a music box, it could be an old pair of jeans. So they're there to share skills and pass them on. And we're doing that particularly now with really building our online presence. So they've started doing regular online workshops, and we hope to open a repair cafe in the middle of Redcar so that local people take on from the Fix It Cafe, who are two artists from Newcastle who set that up. So it's not about, you know, us just having the knowledge within our little tiny freelance team of 5 people. It's about the several hundred people who bring their skills along. So Fix It Cafe is part of it. The Ox Glam Fashion Show is part of it, where we work with local designers to upcycle and recycle charity shop finds and put them on the catwalk. But it's not only local designers and fashion designers who are doing that, it's local members of the community who are on the platform modelling their stuff. And then we're going around the festival and awarding rosettes to best in show, people who have clearly dressed up in a sustainable way or thrifted their clothing. We're there recycling or reusing food waste with our Town is the Menu community meal, working with food that would otherwise have been thrown away. And we're creating our own jams and chutneys on site with fruit and veg that people bring in, working with Abundant Durham. It's all about finding partners who perhaps know that bit more or a bit more active than we are, who can then amplify our message. So have a look at slide 3. We've got to use really simple, plain, direct language with our audiences and with our partners, trying not to lecture, trying to use a very simple, warm tone of voice in all of our messaging and trying to be consistent. And that might be the signage at the site, it might be our emails, our e-newsletters, very bright colours, very cheerful images, very simple wording that is easily understood. And it's not just our voice that is communicating, that we provide a toolkit of messaging for our partners to use as well. And those partners might be the Environment Department in the local authority, they might be Energy Revolution, who help us on our travel deals, it might be Surfers Against Sewage, Friends of the Earth, Climate Extinction Rebellion. That we have a very, very broad church, although up to now we've said no to party political stalls and messaging so that we can keep it broad and be access to all. What's been particularly difficult is, I mean, as with all cultural events, is engaging young people. So this year we've got a particular push to try and get young voices in, sharing and talking about things that concern them, about waste, about reuse, about the planet. So we've got a project called the Young People's Podium, which we're launching in May, where we're going to be recruiting young people to learn skills of presentation and become more confident to speak. And we'll be recording their messaging. And then we'll have a podium like the one that Boris stood behind all through the pandemic. And we'll have our own People's Podium so that those who wanted to share their views can stand, it's like a soapbox, at the festival and talk to us. We're trying to roll out what we do more year round, not just during the festival, by developing an eco ambassador programme to get those messages further and wider. We've done a lot of listening during lockdown. You know, my voice is often hoarse from talking to people, but listening is even more important. Listening to people's needs, encouraging them to make those small steps, walking along with them. And I think we probably need to do a lot more about sharing examples and sharing more links to other people are doing well. You know, we can't be a lone voice. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to connect with all of you. Final slide. We can always point to artists who'll make us see things in a different way. And that's why I will always put artists and craftspeople at the heart of what we do. They're not the entirety by any means, and it's really important that we see ourselves as part of the broader movement for a more sustainable future. We know we're all working with the Sustainable Development Goals. We don't have to foreground that when we're talking about it. So Diane Watson, who's the artist who made these flowers out of waste that she'd picked up on our beaches, that's a very simple and very stark image of, you know, something beautiful can come out of something negative. We'd rather the waste wasn't there in the first place. Our talks programme is there for people to really listen, talk and debate. And I hope that we're going to have something in our next festival that involves some of you, so we can share it even more widely.
Thank you, Stella. That's yeah, that looks amazing. Thank you very much. So, 4 speakers, 4 different approaches to stuff and how we deal with it. So over for questions, please. So I think Alison, were you going to?
Yeah, there's been some things being put in the chat, a lot of information being put there, and some sort of queries that have been answered very efficiently by our speakers already, which is fabulous. So I can go through those for anyone who's not been able to keep an eye on the chat. So we've got, I'm just scrolling back through now, some conversations about the sort of scale that you need to be looking at when trying to launch circular economies. Sue, I think probably best for me to just bounce that back to you for you to just elaborate on the point you were making in the chat about that.
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think it's a balance between too big and it's really difficult to make things happen. So London claims to be a circular city, but I think we would say it's not. Peterborough claims to be one, but no one seems to know about it. So hence that's why we're piloting it at a market town level, partly because Yorkshire's got lots of them and we need to support them. But I'm finding it's a good size to be able to communicate to everybody and do initiatives that could actually touch everybody. And you've got enough of a balance of people, so someone's waste is someone else's raw material, and there's different community initiatives going on. I think large villages you could do it, or a network of villages, but in a city, probably in like a neighbourhood that's got a range of people, is where you could start, and it's definitely a bottom-up approach. I've put in the chat box link to Circular Yorkshire, which has lots of tools, housing tools, business case studies, a whole range of things to get started, and also the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who started the circular economy thinking, as far as I'm aware, and has tools and resources there for a city-led. But as I say, market towns I find a manageable size, or a neighbourhood piece.
That's great. Thanks for that, Sue. Just so everyone knows, any of the links that go in the chat, we'll pop them all in a document and put them on the email that we send out afterwards, so you don't have to worry about scribbling those down now. So all of those links there. We've got some really useful links from Al as well about how to set up your own repair cafe, how to connect with other fixers in your area. I had a question, Al. Is there any sort of capacity within your cafe or others to help people? I know you've mentioned about sort of teaching people how to fix their own things, but to kind of train a wider cohort of people that can be fixers. Is there any kind of initiative of that involved in the repair cafe sort of culture or network?
Not as far as I'm aware. I think there's so many people, you know, around who have some kind of fixing skill that really, if the worry is populating a repair cafe with fixers, I think there shouldn't be a problem in most places. You should be able to reach out into community and find people who can do it. But we do try and, you know, it is a very collaborative event, so we do want the people who bring their stuff in to participate in fixing it and try and understand what's happening. And obviously the fixers collaborate with each other as well to try and troubleshoot and problem solve. So there is learning that goes on, but not in a kind of formal way.
No, that's brilliant. I think that that's really powerful if you walk away having something fixed and also knowing how to fix it when it breaks again. That's brilliant, isn't it? Back to you, Sue. And there's a question there about the councils that you wanted to answer, I think.
Yeah, I just want to share with people, because I know it's not widely known, but actually all the district councils and the borough councils, so there's I think 7 or 7, I think, borough district councils, North Yorkshire County Council and City of York, have all come together, and I think facilitated by the Local Enterprise Partnership, have set a goal to become the UK's first circular carbon negative region, which is a really bold ambition, and they've got dates for it, they've got a roadmap to get there, and all the councils have now got a climate action plan, and they meet to share initiatives, and now they're working on what policies need to change that they can do locally, what do we have to lobby central government for, and putting together, if there's ever funding, to actually make sure it's got a green link to it and a green solution linked with it. So I don't know if anyone here is from a council. I'm not usually a fan of councils and their slow reaction or change, but I have to say the people I've seen, from leaders, directors of development, climate action officers, there is a whole wave of change happening. And I think I'd say to everybody, sort of talk to every council about what is their climate action plan, where are they on it, so push the pressure as well. But actually I'm really confident we're going to achieve that goal, and that's about bringing not just the carbon down, but jobs and new skills as well. So, and I sit as like a non-exec on the LET board, hence I'm aware of it, but I'm really excited about what the region could do and the alignment across parties and councils.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Sue. Fantastic. Al, we've got another question for you about whether or not businesses get involved at all with the Repair Cafe, you know, sending people from bike shops, for instance.
I saw that. 2 points to make on that. One is there's a really good community bike workshop in Leeds. I'm sure some of you've heard of it. It's called Pedalers Arms. And I'm sure there must be one in York as well.
There's also Leeds. There's also Leeds Bike Mill. I'm not sure whether it's community, but they do
Leeds
a pole
Bike Mill
and sell them.
They refurb them themselves. Yeah. So pedalers, it's like hands-on. You go in and do it yourself. So yeah, both really good resources. There's also similar to Bike Mill. There's the Bikes College in Lower Wortley in Leeds. Sorry. So that's another bike kind of recycling place. But generally, I think it's something we're looking to do more of, like kind of collaborate with businesses and refer people, because obviously we can't repair everything that comes into the Repair Cafe. We don't always have the expertise or the tools, and or we don't have time. You know, some repairs take a long time. So we're looking to kind of somehow like crowdsource just trustworthy recommendations of repair shops, which is something that the Restart Project have done in London already, or started doing. So yeah, that's something we need to crack on with, definitely.
That's a really good idea, isn't it, to get a sort of list of like you say, organisations you can confidently vouch for. Yeah, I've just popped those 2 links to the Pedalers Arms and Leeds Bike Mill in the chat as well, so they'll go into that document I mentioned as well. Just having a little look. I mean, we've got some discussion going on about York City Council and why there's not more conversation about the efforts towards circular economies there. So we can open that up if people want, unless there's any other questions. Oh, for Sue, sorry, there's one more for Sue. Have you produced any kind of directory? Is that asking about sort of like a how-to for other people that are looking to go circular? That's from the lady who's not Jamie. I can't remember what your actual name is. Sorry. Do you want to take that and elaborate on that one?
Yeah, I think I've posted the Circular Yorkshire sort of page and resources. I'd go there. I'm not sure if it's a directory per se, but it's got so much of how-to things. And one of the things they are working with me and the team on is producing a practical town guide to get started. So it's work in progress. This isn't my day job. So trying to do it alongside everything else, but there will be, and that page and resource keeps being updated, so it will definitely appear there. But there's loads of stuff if you keep clicking through.
Fantastic, that's brilliant. Stella, I think I've been told that you had your hand up, or you were trying to say something. Is that the case or not?
Yes, I was just going to add in around the the fixing and repair. We are hoping to develop a whole team of fixers who then set up their own fixing groups. But setting up a tool library is something as well that we're encouraging, and there are resources to set up your own tool library, which is a way of sharing resources, and it can be done really simply within a street context as well. I mean, a lot of us will have been setting up WhatsApp groups during the lockdown with our neighbours, and setting up a neighbourhood sharing of tools, so you're not all buying mowers and shears and drills and what have you, that you're using them in common. So we're going to be doing much more of that as we build a year-round presence in Redcar, and encouraging people to do that within their locality. So that's one of the things that the eco ambassadors will be encouraging.
That's brilliant, Stella. I know from our point of view at Oak Tree, that's something that we're really keen on doing. A library of things is something we'd love to run locally, if we get the premises. So maybe you and I could talk about that offline. Yeah. I'm sure there was something. Just trying to think, was there anybody else that had something they wanted to add? I thought we had another question. Oh no, sorry, that was just Kate confirming. Has that answered your question, Kate? Yeah. Okay, I think unless we've got anything else. Oh yeah, I had a question for precious plastics actually. It's similar to what we've been talking about in the other ones about sort of replication and using your model to sort of go further. Have you got any collaborations in the pipeline, or any plans to sort of spread out further with the model that you're building there?
Sam, I don't know if you want to sort of talk about where we're up to, what we're doing at the moment, what we've done already.
At the minute, the templates set up by Precious Plastic seem to assume a lot of knowledge already, and that the people using the equipment will basically be engineers from what we can understand. So we're working with the University of York, the Bio Renewable Development Centre, and now a health and safety consultant, because our aim is to be able to take this machinery into schools and get kids hands-on. So we want to make sure the equipment is completely safe and completely user-friendly. So make sure we've got plenty of guards and emergency stops and everything like that. So once we finalise all that, the plan is to start putting together documents explaining the changes we've made, why we've made them, and like the pitfalls, and hopefully there's not too many of those, but all the things we've put into place to try and make this project work and make that publicly accessible. And our green mentor program, I think, Freya, and we've also got a student volunteer who's reaching out to local community groups. So Men in Sheds, I think she's been in touch with, and the University SU, to start putting the feelers out and make sure people are aware of what we're going to try and do, and see if they want to get involved and start setting up their own workshops, because not every workshop needs to have the same equipment. So we'd be quite happy to shred stuff for other workshops, so they could potentially just get the injection molded or one of the other bits of kit that we've not really looked at, because you don't need it all. We can share, and we'd be more than happy to share.
That's fantastic. Yeah, really good to know. It sounds like there's big things afoot there.
Hopefully.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, is we started with a collaboration really, because we crowdfunded to raise funds to get the machines, with a little bit of help from Nix as well. But yeah, so we've just been really wired. We managed to hit it was near £8,000 in the end, and yeah, just people coming together. So part of this project is that it's going to be community based, and you can get your hands on the machines and come and play, to then be inspired to go off and see if you can maybe source your own machines.
Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant, good stuff. A little bit more information from Sue in the chat about some of the nudge techniques and approaches for circular economy on their website. So that's fantastic. So have you put the website link in the chat there? Is it further back? If it is, I'll pick it up later. Just make sure it's there somewhere. That's fine. Yeah, I think that's it. Unless there's any other conversations anyone wants to pull out, or any other questions that anyone has. I think we're done with Q&A. Nope, can't see any hands up or anything. That's great. Thanks, guys. That was really good.